Welcome. You're watching Spirit of Life. I'm Norm Currie, and today we're speaking with Pastor Steve, who's from the Church of the Nazarene. When we spoke last week, something really triggered with me was your discourse about the different cultures that you've worked with. And I wonder, can we explore, there were the Sudanese, the indigenous people, the islanders. Perhaps if you could illuminate those in...
Okay. In Sydney, I had these 3-4 groups, the English-speaking, Greek-speaking, Spanish, Pacific Islanders, and the indigenous. I had more to do with the Pacific Islanders, and somebody else, my associate, was working with the indigenous in the inner suburb of Sydney, as I said, in the infamous block there.
Yes.
We used to go and pick up the children and give them a good feed and take the adults and so on, and just sit around and talk with them and just... the Pacific Islanders, I found myself getting involved with different groupings because out of compassion, out of understanding, I thought, and I still think, I can sympathize with the new migrants in Australia, those new grouping of people coming, and I know exactly what they're facing. The cultural, the language, the perhaps the religion, all of these differences that they come, and it's a kind of a shock. And that's what I went through when I was a young teenager. I think the best way to describe it is understanding the people, and is to work with them. To go into their houses, to go into the churches, and be with them. And don't go there to show how superior your knowledge is, or your religion is better, or your knowledge, it's much more. But just be with them. If I could say an example, when we went to Fiji, we went there and we decided with my wife to go to a Fijian church service in the morning. So we went there, and the pastor came out, and he was wearing a white shirt and a tie and a grass grass dress and no shoes.
No shoes. Yes.
Now, and I was looking at it and I was bemused. I said, why do people dress like that? Because the white missionaries, they told him, look, if you want to be a pastor, you got to wear a white shirt, you got to wear a tie. Okay, wear a skirt and no shoes. And I imagine now how silly or funny it looks, And I said to, I was talking with my wife, I said, why didn't they let the people just decide their own how to worship God? Just sit around. The Pacific Islanders and the Fijians and the, all these grouping, they like to sit down. They don't want to sit on pews. No, they don't want to have to dress up, like the white people. So why I'm saying that is we need to learn how to identify with this group of people, with different groupings of people, understand their culture, where they're coming from, what is it that they like and they dislike in us, because not everything we do is right.
No, not quite.
And I think I found out that with the Pacific Islanders, they're a wonderful grouping of people. I've never met one atheist Pacific Islander.
No.
They all, they have reverence and love for God. They might not live all like, Christians, but they like to say they're Christians. But their thinking is different. The timing is different. The way they express themselves. They never will come up to you and tell you, we don't like what you do. Never. They will go indirect way. Talking, and they want you to get the signals with, what they like and what they don't like. So all that experience, for me, it was a great experience, and I've learned one thing. In order to bring the gospel to these people, we need to contextualize. Now, I use this word quite often. Contextualize the gospel, contextualize the faith in their culture. Not just adapt it, but contextualize it. Because adaptation sometimes it means that you take away something from then, and you adapt it with something of your own. So that's why I think. And I think I'm the right person, because somebody reached from a different nationality, different language, reached out to me. So
that's right.
I think I want to do that.
That's really the potential in Australia for that to happen, because we've got roots going back with the Italians and the Greeks. We're very familiar with that. Not that we did it particularly well, I don't think, but it's a foundation on which, if we do it properly, we can adapt that, because we've got migrants coming in all the time, and many from very unfortunate circumstances. The Sudanese, for example, and I'd like to talk about them a bit later as well. So that having this willingness to accept them on their terms is quite important.
It is.
And are you finding that consciousness of people, as Anglos I'm talking about here, are they showing an adaptability to accepting that, or is it something which is still strange to them?
You mean the non-English speaking? Or
no,
the Australian.
The Australians, yes.
I think the Australians are doing well, much better than some other, Europeans or Americans. The Americans, they come, they go as missionaries. They said, it's like McDonald's everywhere. No, we are. Well, this is the rest of it. This is what we got to do it our way.
That's how it's done. That's right.
They have those principles. But I think Australians have learned, because we're exposed to so many different nationalities and cultural backgrounds, and this mosaic, this wonderful mosaic of people that exist in Australia. And we have these wonderful restaurants of different nationalities and different languages, and like even on Channel 31, different languages.
And there is a mosaic of time, and we're out of it.
Okay.
We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Spirit of Life, and we're speaking with Pastor Steve from the Church of the Nazarene. Steve, you were talking about this fascinating thing about the cross-cultural role of Christianity in your experience of it. What would be, do you think, the characteristics of a person doing the sort of work that you do? What are the key principles that they need to practice?
Okay, I think number one is you need to understand where that grouping of people coming from. Understand the background. Understand the culture. The second thing will be, in my ministry, what I realize, it's that respect for the culture. Respect towards the people, the way they dressed, the way they go about it, the way they grouping together, the way they sing, the way they show, sadness and happiness. And I think the third one will be just love. Unconditional love. With other words, I love you because Christ loves you, or I love you as Christ loves me. And I embody that. I am incarnating that love of Christ so I can be with you. And I think people, it doesn't matter if they're Pacific Islanders or Sudanese, they can see that. They see if you're a sincere person that you want to be with them without trying to change their cultural background or, you know, their culture and their ethos and all of that. For me, I'll just give you an example. Because I helped and I was there for the Samoan, the Pacific Islanders, and I wanted to be formed into an autonomous church. They wanted to be under me. I said, no. You're a different culture. We're all Christians, and we have the Christian culture. But also we have our ethnic culture as well. And they respected that. And the pastor that I helped to establish an autonomous, a separate, still Church of the Nazarene, passed away, sadly, 3 weeks ago. And I had a phone call from the elders there and said, Pastor Steve, we want you to come and do the funeral because you were the one who were there with Pastor Tully and you were with us. Now, to me, the highest respect Samoan people can show is for you to be there and conduct the funeral service. Because all the chiefs, if we can say, everybody comes there for condolences, and they see you as the chief of the chiefs. The pastor is not just a pastor, he's like a very respectable, he holds onto a very respectable position. Unfortunately, I couldn't go because of the lockdown and all of that. And it was really sad, but somebody else took over the service. So I'm saying that when the people understand and they know there is a genuine love there and concern, they respect that. And the way they will want to show respect back to you is to get you involved in things that is very important to them.
So you on the love theme, you really need to fairly quickly recognize the status of love, which is a fairly big concept, but the status of love in their culture. So with Samoans, as you're saying, there's this idea with burials and with their cleric being raised up at the chieftain sort of level. How well is that understood, or was that? I think your starting an autonomous church was very powerful, and you recognised it obviously. Has that been common across the board with Christian involvements with the Pacific Islanders?
Unfortunately, no. And we know here in Australia, missionaries did some terrible things with the separation of children, and they were well-intending, but really wrong things they did. And something missionaries went and with well-intending intentions, but just couldn't understand. Some people, they have a good intention but don't understand culture. And some understand culture but they don't have good intentions. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So and so this is what people can see through. They can see through you. If you're genuine, if you really love to be with them and to respect them and be with them, not just there to give them advice, even though they will listen to you, but you need to listen to what they say, how they're saying it. Now, I'm not saying I'm an expert in all assets, in all ways of understanding God, but I think that took many years to.
You mentioned a very important word, which is listening. Listening without a framework, a filter. Just actually hear it.
Unfortunately, we as Westerners, as pastors or ministers, we think our first role is to speak. And constantly speak.
That's right.
And we never allow the other person to speak and to listen to them.
That's right.
Just sit down. I remember.
Listening, the one thing about listening, it takes time to listen. And we're out of it for the moment.
Okay.
We'll be back in a moment.
Till I hear much breath of the Spirit.
Welcome back. You're watching Spirit of Life. We're speaking with Pastor Steve from the Church of the Nazarene on a very interesting topic, actually, Steve, because you threw in unconditional love in part of a conversation before. Can we pick that up and say, right, first of all, we'll get your definition of what you think unconditional love is, and then go and see how widely you think, A, that's applied in this cultural context, and the places where perhaps it is applied and works successfully. So,
all right, well,
you've got a week to answer.
Okay. Well, look, when we talk about in the Christian context of unconditional love, I want to put it, if I could, in a more specific and more practical way. Say between a spouse, my wife and I, I say I love my wife unconditionally. What does that mean? I don't say I love my wife because, or I love my wife when, or I love my wife if, like if she pleases me, or when she looks beautiful, or
whatever she does.
Yeah. I love my wife, full stop.
Yep.
Okay. Now, if we can apply that in the Christian context, and we say we must love people unconditionally, just like Jesus did. We loved by Him unconditionally. There is no if or when or why.
No.
He loves us, full stop. And what a wonderful concept that is, to understand and to experience the love of Jesus in your life. So in order to live that out to other people, you come across and you say, I love I love you, I love who you are, I love your culture, I love your not because you're smart or because you're good for Australia or because you brought something good here. We tell them we love them, full stop. And then you gotta exhibit that love. You gotta allow the incarnation of that love, which is Jesus' love, to be embodied and to be practiced. And how do you practice that love? Now, of course, there's different ways you can practice that love with people as you meet with them and as you talk with them and you go out of your way and you help them. Because a lot of migrants, for example, talking about, if it wasn't the practical love that some of Australians and some other nationalities showed to me and to my local Greek church that were there, really, we wouldn't be too impressed. But they showed practically their love to us. They would come and say, okay, you need a building here. We will build you a building. And in a practical way, they'll say, this building is for you to use it as a church or as a Sunday school or a catechism and so on, And so the love, it has to be practiced. It has to be shown out. It's not just, in your head and in your feelings, which is good, but it has to be. So the Christian love, and it takes more effort when you're reaching out with that love of Jesus to cross-cultural groupings, because you have to go through many more barriers of tolerance and of love and compassion and listening and all of that. And so that is the unconditional love to me. That is the definition of unconditional. To love the people for who they are, full stop.
Now that sort of, and thanks for that. That's a very deep explanation with all of the nuances covered. I think that one of the things which occurs to me is that many of these people from migrant backgrounds, as you said, as we were discussing before, they're actually establishing a level of trust is the important one. So I can't remember the direct quote, but when someone asked how many times do you have to forgive, it's, what was it, 70 times 7 or something, whatever. So when you're dealing with this cross-cultural situation, you're dealing with someone who's been really, I hate to use the word abused because it goes everywhere, but they've actually been brutalised, perhaps is a better description.
Yes.
Establishing that my love is genuine love with a person like that. How many times have you seen it where you've had to just keep gently going? Is that a common experience?
It is, especially among the Sudanese.
Yes.
The Sudanese people, as we all know, they came out of a brutal, as you said, environment, out of war.
Yeah.
Some of the people in our church, the Sudanese, they were 13, 14 years in isolation, in camps.
Yes.
You know,
amazing.
where for so many years, the instinct of survival was in them. It was, how do I survive?
Yeah.
How do I? So coming to Australia, that instinct of survival is still within them. Some of them are angry.
Yeah.
They were brought up in a war-torn country.
Yeah.
And for them, they see killings, they see, and they need to be angry and violent towards other people in order for them to survive.
We're talking about anger, and I know that if I go over time with this, there'll be anger directed towards me. And I think it'd be great to be able to pick this up next week, because there's a lot of stuff hanging off this, Pastor Steve. So would you be able to do that?
Yes, I'll be happy to do.
Thank you very much. You've been watching Spirit of Life, and next week we will come back and we'll be speaking with Pastor Steve, and it'll be the cross-cultural implications. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.